I want you to meet a friend of mine, Dr. Michael Lomax. Dr. Lomax knows a little bit about getting students educated. Under his leadership at the United Negro College Fund, he's the CEO and the president. He has raised over $3 billion to help students get educated. Over 120,000 students. Honored to have you with us. I'll let you sit down, but we're honored to have him with us today. Dr. Lomax, I love your spirit and I love what you do. I love your heart.
I love your spirit. I love what you do. I love what this great church does. Good morning.
Dr. Lomax is an amazing man, and you've lived your life to help others. And now, through the United Negro College Fund, y'all are helping all those students, but it's your platform. Tell us what you want us to hear.
Well, my story is like many people's story. I was a kid growing up in Los Angeles. My parents, my mom was a journalist. We owned a little newspaper. We scraped to make it by, and in the mid-1950s, something happened in Montgomery, Alabama. Dr. Martin Luther King began a bus boycott with Rosa Parks and others to make sure that we had equality in that community. My mom wrote my newspaper, and she wrote practically all 24 pages of it every week. 6 kids wrote that newspaper. My dad produced it, and she decided to go down to Montgomery and cover that bus boycott for 1 week. She went down there, she met Dr. King, she met Mrs. King, she met those incredible people who came together to transform that community. And when she came back, she wrote about it. And then a year later, a very young Martin Luther King came to Los Angeles, California. And my mom invited him to our home, just as she had been invited to his. And I went with her to pick him up in front of the hotel where he was staying. And he was out there in a winter morning, and he had on a big coat and a fedora. He was looking cool. Put him in the car, drove him to our home, and he had coffee, cake, and ice cream while my mother interviewed him. And it was my first time meeting this man who didn't seem imposing, but would transform our nation and the world. Fast forward 10 years, I'm a senior at Morehouse College, 20 years old, about to graduate. And just weeks before graduation, Dr. King is assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. And they brought his earthly remains back to Atlanta, and he lay in state on the campus of Spelman College in Sisters Chapel. And all of us who were students then either were helping people, the thousands of people who wanted to come and pay their final respects, or to prepare for the funeral service which would be held there. And my job was to take people over to pay their final respects. And I would look down into that casket, open casket, and that young man that we'd picked up a decade earlier lay still and lifeless. And I think that was the beginning of my journey. Because I felt, looking at him, that he had believed so deeply in what he was doing that he was prepared to give his life for it. And his giving his life enabled me to have a different kind of life. Because I had a great education, I went to the same school he did, and I had to do something. And just as Sister Barbara read, we can't all be famous, but we can all serve. And that's been my journey, and my service has been in education. I feel like I'm an evangelist for education. I'm out there telling everybody you can get one. It may not be the same one I got, but you can get the one you need. And that education, come on, let's give education a hand. That education can do what it's going to do for Tiana. She's got a firm foundation from this church. But now she's also going to have the skills to help people in her way. And each of us can help others in our way. And sometimes we need a good, strong education. And if you don't have everything you need to get it, you just go to UNCF.org and we'll help you figure out what else you need. Yeah. And you're going to get a great education. Give your education another hand, everybody. Come on.
I love that. Because you told me, you thought about maybe going into the ministry, but I love that you're a minister of education, and now, millions of people are being helped by what y'all do. And you said something last service, you don't give them it all necessarily. You like people to stay hungry, and talk about how everybody's got greatness too.
When I went to Morehouse, I was 16 years old. And I was the first in my family of that generation to go to college. And they gave me a full tuition scholarship, which that long ago was only $600 a semester, $1,200 a year, but that was enough. And I said, well, what about the room and board? They said, well, that's up to you. My dad paid the first year, and he said after that, Michael, that's up to you. And so I worked my way through college to get that rest of that money. And you know what? It was hard, but it wasn't impossible. And two things happened because of that. I learned the value of making a way with the support of others, but I also learned that others can help you make a way. And so I learned so much from that experience. And now when we give scholarships, we could give a few people a lot of money, or we could give a lot of people a little bit of money, just enough to make a change. Last year, we got a big grant from the founder of Netflix and his wife. And they gave $40 million to Spelman College, $40 million to Morehouse College, $40 million to United Negro College Fund. Now, at Morehouse and Spelman, they gave a few students full scholarships for the next 10 years. They're going to do that every year. At UNCF, we said, well, we got $40 million over 10 years. I'll bet we can help about 2,000 people with about $5,000 a year. And guess what? They're on their journey. They didn't get everything, but they got just enough. And I think that's the way I feel about it. Today, I don't know whether that met all of Tiana's needs, but she got two gifts from this church today. One of them was financial. But the other one, she got a whole lot of gas in her gas tank about who she is and what and I'm telling you, she go get, I know that she now knows that she can overcome obstacles. Even if she doesn't have everything, she's got, just enough. And so that's what we aim to do. We aim to give people just enough so we can give more people the opportunity to get a great education.
You talk about sometimes that everybody has something, you don't have to be up here on the stage, but everybody has something, and how also the scholarship, it brings people out of poverty.
Well, first of all, I believe deeply, and we have a lot of research at UNCF that says that our scholarships are just enough to help people have a successful journey from where they start, and all of our scholarship recipients start at the low end of the economic spectrum. And by 10 years after graduation, they're not at the low end anymore. They might not even qualify anymore for a UNCF scholarship. We got them started. So that's, so I think that it's that. Now, what was the other part of that question now?
Just how you talked when we talked on the phone, how everybody authentically has something in them. Everybody has that greatness in them.
And that's the deal. We're all gifted, but we just don't always have the insight into what our gifts are. And, I'll tell you, I used to think one day I'm going to be doing what Dr. King did. I'll be giving great oratory, and I'll be, making people just applaud and shout and scream and motivating them. But that's not me. But what I did find is I can do this job and make it not just a job, but it's my gift. This is my gift. And each and every one of us has a gift. And we just have to look inside ourselves and find it. And then we have to honestly commit to live it. And everything I've heard in church this morning has been about believing in yourself, not standing in the way of yourself becoming who you can be. Because it isn't always external obstacles. It's a lot of inside obstacles that we just don't have trust and confidence in ourselves. One of the things we do a lot of work with historically black colleges, and I think one of the really great gifts of the historically black college is that we teach our students to climb and to reach back and lift others while they climb. And I think that's, I just felt like today, Pastor Joel, I've heard so many words that really reflect the beliefs that our institutions have. That we all, we're all doing this work differently, but the work is to lift others. And I want to say too, being here today, because I've been cooped up for 2 years. Normally I'd be out, I had 250,000 miles on Delta in 2019. I had about 0 miles on Delta in 2020 because I was at home, couldn't get out, couldn't get around the country, couldn't do my job. One of the things that happens when I go on my job is that I see that the America that I encounter when we do our work looks more like this church. It looks like people of different backgrounds and different experiences who share a common belief in helping others, in the goodness of others. And so, it's a little easy to get kind of depressed when you don't see affirmations. And today, I've not just seen affirmations, I've felt affirmations. And I want to thank you for putting some more gas in my, in my gas tank, helping me have the motivation to continue to do this work. And I, as I said to you after the 8 a.m. service, I get to Houston pretty often, and I would we have an event on Saturday night, and I'd leave early the next morning. I guess I'm going to have to change my travel plans when I'm in Houston.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, I'm going to give you the last word, just a word of encouragement to somebody. Just, you never dreamed I'd look at you and say, at 20 years old, you're going to raise $3 billion for an organization. You're going to help.
Oh, I'm not through now. Just that $3 billion, that's just what we've done so far. We're going to announce another campaign. We're going to raise at least another $1 billion before I step down from this.
I believe it.
But I want to say something to the people, all of the folks who are here, and all the folks we can't see. Because I do Twitter, so if you want to go to, I've got all these Twitter responses since the 8 o'clock service, people who are from all over the world, who are experiencing this great, great church. I would say that it's so easy to let the doubters win. It's so easy to see the obstacles as impossible to move. And it may be a little harder to look deep inside yourself and to believe in who you are and know that you really have the strength to make a difference. I'm so inspired today by this wonderful service and your incredible pastors who lead this incredible congregation. But I'd also say that you have something else inside you. And that is what's here. And if you will just build this muscle and this muscle, we can change this world we live in. We can change this nation. We don't have to be acrimonious. We don't have to fight one another. We can come together and realize, because a lot of the fighting is around who's going to get what little there is. It's a battle over scarcity. You use the word today, bounty. I use the word abundance. There is so much abundance, human abundance. And if we would just view all of us as a parcel of that human abundance, there's nothing that can hold our world back from being the creation that it was created to be. So thank you, Pastor.
Come on, y'all, let's give Dr. Michael Lomax a great big thank you. We love you.
Love you.
We're supporting your organization. Thanks for everything.